on, Stellar Crew? Bob MacArthur here for Stellarvue Telescopes for this month's edition of In the Sky, January 2025. Holy cow, it is January, it is the new year. Hopefully you got some fun new gifts in the holiday season. I know I did, woohoo! So it is an amazing time for viewing. It is planets right now. Jupiter is beautiful, it is bright, Mars is in the sky, so I really have been enjoying the planets with my SVX 152T. It is a phenomenal telescope. I've been looking at Saturn and Jupiter with it, but I am excited for the Mars opposition. That's right, Mars is in opposition this month. I did not have this telescope last opposition, so I'm really excited to get in there and observe Mars. You know, some eyepieces I really enjoy using, the 9mm Optimus, phenomenal eyepiece for the planets. You know, on a clear night, obviously, you get Jupiter, you get the cloud bands, the moons, but if the seeing is good, there's detail, it pops. Now, if your seeing is really good, throw in that Optimus 4.7. Oh my gosh, you get the detail in the cloud bands on good seeing nights. I'm excited for Mars with this one. You know, Mars is kind of a tricky planet. If the seeing is good, you can start popping out surface detail, ice caps. I'm excited to get Mars with these two eyepieces right here. Now, there are some other really good objects out. It is winter time, so some of our favorites like the Orion Nebula, the Pleiades, we have the Thor's Helmet, the Rosette Nebula, the 28mm wide field, Stellarvue. This, I really enjoy this eyepiece a lot. Actually, in the fall with the Andromeda Galaxy, that eyepiece is great too. I actually just upgraded my mount too. I had the GM811 from Losmandy. I actually just upgraded to the G11G. Wow, this mount is phenomenal. The G811 held my 127 perfect. It did okay with the 152 also, but if I'm doing astrophotography, I definitely wanted to upgrade my mount. The G11G, great mount, holds the 152, spectacular, tracks. Wow, the Gemini 2 computer, just rock steady. The go-to phone. I am excited to play more with this mount. It is great. So yeah, let's get to it. January 2025. In the sky, let's talk about what we got going on. What's going on, Stellar Crew? Here we are, January 2025, in the sky. A little bit different setting. I'm not in my classroom. I'm actually in my living room. So let's talk about what we got going on this month, January 2025. So at the beginning of the month, we have the Quadrantid meteor shower. What's really nice about this meteor shower is it's happening around the new moon. So meteor showers are great generally on midnight, a little bit after that. We will get a nice few good bright meteors for this one, so definitely check it out. Man, I'll tell you what, we have planets in the sky, and we're going to have some great planet-moon pairings. We're going to start with Venus and the waxing crescent moon on January 3rd, right after sunset. Look in the western sky. I love it when that crescent moon sits there right there with just blazing Venus right now. It is so bright. Actually, from a dark sky location, without light pollution, Venus is bright enough at a -4 magnitude to cast your shadow. So that's a fun thing to check out too. Now, January 4th, Earth is at perihelion. Earth's orbit around the sun is not a perfect circle. And it's not the shape of our orbit that causes our seasons. It's the tilt of the Earth at 23.5 degrees that causes our seasons. You know, last month we had the first day of winter. So what's interesting is perihelion, when we're actually closest to the sun, and we're actually closer to the sun in the wintertime. So that right there is kind of crazy. And because of the shape of our orbit and the way our calendar works, perihelion and the first day of winter don't quite line up. They're a few weeks off. Same thing with aphelion and first day of summer. So aphelion is when you're furthest from the sun. That usually takes place at the beginning of July, and of course the first day of summer is at the end of June. But anyways, yeah, I go off on this. So perihelion, Earth is closest to the sun. We're moving the fastest in our orbit, And that about 91 million miles away, our perihelion is on January 4th. So there we go. And what's great now, you might start noticing our days are getting slightly longer, about a couple minutes every day, depending on your latitude. So yay! We're getting out of the dark days. Now, I know more observing time in the winter time, but man, the cold, I'll tell you what. So there we go. Let's also on January 4th, that moon is going to slide a little bit further up in the sky, and instead of being next to Venus, it's going to be next to Saturn. Again, another great pairing. Saturn is getting lower in the sky, so we're getting our last breath of really good Saturn observing, but you got to get it early before it gets in too much muck. January 9th, the waxing gibbous moon passes through the Pleiades. It's actually, depending on your latitude, it's going to go whoop right through the Pleiades. Here at my latitude at like 39, 40 degrees, you'll be able to watch the moon just go boop, 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 right through all the stars of the Pleiades. So that's going to be a fun little photo op and astrophotography, either wide field or through the telescope itself. So astrophotographers, get out there and check that out. Visual observers, you'll be able to watch the moon throughout the night, pass through those stars. That'll be really cool to watch. On January 13th, we got the full moon. But what's really cool about the 13th is you'll actually have the full moon, Mars, and then Castor and Pollux up there in Gemini, kind of make a fun little grouping. But also on the night of January 13th and 14th, depending on what part of the globe you're in, we are going to have a lunar occultation of Mars. The moon will actually pass in front of and cover Mars for a pretty good chunk. I mean, we're talking about a good chunk of North America and Western Africa. Again, that website right there, www.lunar-occultations.com, great source for knowing about all the occultations. And Mars is always a fun one to watch. And with the full moon, that'll be an interesting one. So again, fun to observe and fun to take photos of. Check it out. And then on the 15th and 16th, this is what we've been waiting for, or at least us planetary observers. I got my Mars rover shirt on right there. It is Mars occultation time. Mars is a fun planet to observe. It's a challenging planet to observe. It can be challenging because the surface features are hard. They're hard to see. But it's a great planet. I've been observing it. I actually looked at it last night. You could see the North Polar ice cap and some of the features down in the southern hemisphere. I had my SVX 152 checking it out, and it's leading up to opposition and for a little bit after opposition. Check it out. I had the privilege of, when I was in my undergrad, to work at Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I was working there, and the Mars oppositions and viewing through that Clark is fun, and it's historical. I mean, Percival Lowell and his canals of Mars and Martians. We know there's no canals on Mars now, but it is just a fun planet to look at, and the history of Mars is just great. So check Mars out and get your photos, and please send in your photos. We'd like to see what y'all are capturing with it. So Mars opposition only happens about every 2 years or so when Earth and Mars line up. So we're always either chasing it or falling behind it. It's just, I'm so excited about Mars opposition. So on January 17th, Saturn's getting lower and lower in the sky while Venus is still kind of rising a little bit. But on January 17th, they're going to make a nice tight pair. For the day before, so the 16th, up to the January 18th, but the 17th is the right there close. So January 21st, Mars closes in on Castor and Pollux. So you have the two brightest stars in Gemini. Mars has been kind of dancing around up by those, but on that day, January 21st, it's going to make a nice kind of tighter pair with it. January 31st, after sunset, the waxing crescent moon hangs out with Saturn and Venus. So again, we get it at the beginning of the month on the 3rd and the 4th, and then we're going to get it again at the end of the month because of the lunar phases. So check it out. Moon, Venus, Saturn. It's a lot of fun stuff to look at. So speaking of the planets, what do we got going on? Well, first of all, Mars. Look at that image right there. Nice job, Barry, with your 152. That's a spectacular image. The sun, still going. So if you don't have a white light filter for your scope, get one. Observe the sun. The sunspot's been great. We've been getting some wonderful solar flares, some sunspots. So check it out. The sun is killing it. I also have a H alpha scope that's also very fun to observe the sun with. And when it comes to planets, comets, asteroids, I know I bring them up, but these are great tools. theskylive.com. If you want to know where your minor planets are, your asteroids, what comets are visible, you can punch in your latitude. It is a great tool. Sky Telescope Observing Tool. You can find out what moons of Saturn are visible, what pole based on your telescope, the moons of Jupiter. I have been seeing some great shadows of Jupiter's moons. Io transit, I had Ganymede transit. It is fun to watch the moons pass in front of Jupiter and see what shadow it is. But the Sky Telescope Observing Tool is a huge help, so you can find out which one that is. And then for Mars, there actually is a good Mars tool. I actually posted it in the Stellarvue user forum. It's what you can see what features. Are you seeing Citrus Major? Are you seeing what planetias or planes are you seeing? The ice caps. So Sky Telescope, wonderful tool. But right now you got Venus in the western sky after sunset. Saturn's over there by Venus. I believe Neptune is also over in that area. And then as you scan a little bit further to the east, you do have Uranus. Uranus has been fun. I like you get that little green disk. I'm trying to get some good images of it. Uranus, and then Jupiter, and then of course Mars. So it's great. I love it when the planets are up. We are, for a little bit there, we're in a planet drought. We are not in a planet drought. So get out there and observe planets. And, I've said it the last few times. If you're an astrophotographer, I give you guys so much props because I'm starting to get into it a little bit, and it's difficult. See, I've been a visual observer most of my life, so I'm gonna say, it comes to the planets, shooting the planets is fun, but take those cameras off, plop in an eyepiece, and check out the planets. It's a fun perspective. Same thing with the moon. I've really enjoyed, observing the moon, sharing the moon with people, but also I'm getting into taking pictures of the moon. So check out the moon. Well, speaking of the moon, those are your moon phases right there. The full moon for our month, for this month, is January 13th, and the new moon is at the end of the month on January 29th. So there you go. Plan your observing sessions accordingly. So let's talk about star clusters. Now, we are getting into the winter Milky Way season. The winter Milky Way is not as bright as the summer Milky Way because the way the Earth is positioned, we're actually looking out of the Milky Way a little bit, out into the outer spiral arms. But it is a great night. We have some of the brightest stars in the night sky, and we're getting that band, especially if you're in dark skies, you can see that faint band in the Milky Way, and there are lots of great star clusters in that. For example, you have the Hyades up there in Taurus. It's actually our closest star cluster, so a lot of people overlook it. This is the head of Taurus the Bull with Aldebaran right there in it. It's fun to just kind of cruise through with your scopes, or you get a nice wide field shot of that. It'd be kind of fun to see what you guys get for that. So share them in the user forum, send them to us. It'd be great. I love posting your pictures in the sky every month. So. Like Brian got this great shot of the Pleiades right now, and I know a lot of you have. So thanks again for sharing and sending your pictures in. So again, the Pleiades M45, and don't forget this month we got the moon going through it, so that'd be a cool photo op. I kind of grouped these three together: M36, M37, M38. We talked about them last month. But they're up there. A nice thing about Auriga right now, it's really high in January, kind of towards the zenith. And there's a lot of really cool stuff to shoot right there. M35, kind of by the foot of Gemini, is up there. It's a pretty cool open star cluster. And you have a couple other faint NGC star clusters right next to it also. So check that out. We have NGC 2419. This is a globular star cluster, the Intergalactic Wanderer. So it's the summer you have the big fat globulars like M22 and M13 and M92, but this is a nice little globular for the winter time, so definitely check it out. And I had to throw the Christmas tree cluster in there. I know I should have thrown it in for last month for Christmas and the holiday season, but it is a fun one. It actually looks like a little Christmas tree, and you have the Cone Nebula in that area too. So NGC 2264 up there in Monteceros. So check out the Christmas tree cluster. It looks like a little pine tree. It's kind of fun. So yeah, speaking of the Cone Nebula and nebulas, let's go ahead and jump into nebulas. We have the Crab Nebula. This is a fun nebula to look at and shoot. It is a supernova remnant. It is M1, the first one on Messier's catalog. So it's a good one to get. Of course, you have M42, the Orion Nebula. It's a fun one to shoot. It's a great one. It's a good one to observe. Wide field views, like I throw in the Stellarvue 28 into in the 152, and you get that wide field. Throwing a UHC filter pops out that nebula. It's pretty awesome. Now the Horsehead's a little bit challenging visually. I can get it with my hydrogen beta filter in my 16. A little bit in the 152, but I know image-wise, y'all are getting some great shots with your 152s. Kevin got this with his 180. It is a cool nebula. So, and you have the Flame Nebula right there next to the Horsehead too. So kind of a nice little grouping. So check out the Horsehead, IC 434. You also have the Clown Face Nebula, formerly known as the Eskimo Nebula up there in Gemini. It is a planetary nebula. It is one of my favorites to look at. That one up there with like the Helix Nebula and the Ring Nebula and the Dumbbell Nebula, those are probably some of my favorites. But this time of year, I think NGC 2392, the Clown Face, takes the cake when it comes to planetaries. And it's relatively bright, which is pretty cool. I also really like the Rosette. The Rosette is a cool nebula. And I was looking at it through my son's SVX 90T. He does a little bit of astrophotography and plays around, but I wanted to visually see if I could get the Rosette. And we could with the 90T, the Rosette, and I popped in a UHC, it just popped. So, and of course, it's a great astrophotography image, and you get the cool little like open star cluster right there in the middle of it. So you have the Rosette, NGC 2237, also known as Caldwell 49. So check out the Rosette. And then again, I mentioned the Cone Nebula when I mentioned the Christmas tree cluster, but they kind of are right there in the same group. They're kind of, you know, the Cone Nebula is the nebula part of it, and the Christmas tree cluster is the cluster part of it. So they're a fun group, fun little group to get. So check out that right there. So galaxies, let's talk about what we got going on with galaxies. I'm keeping the Andromeda in there because it is great Andromeda season, especially, you know, as it's transiting the zenith right now. You're getting less atmosphere, really good skies. Same thing with Triangulum. So keep looking at Andromeda and Triangulum. Now over January and into February, they'll start moving to the western sky, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll lose those guys, but as those galaxies fade away, we'll start getting the galaxies in Ursa Major and also Leo and Virgo in the spring. So galaxy season will be here before we know it. So there it is. We also have the Eye of God galaxy, NGC 1232. Mentioned that last month, but it's down there in Eridanus. A cool little galaxy. Nice little spiral for sure. And then we have IC 342 or C5 up north, up in the Camel. I'm not even going to try and say that constellation, but it's kind of a nice one. Sometimes we forget about objects up there here in the northern hemisphere. There's a lot of really cool objects in the circumpolar north. I know there's a lot of really cool objects in the circumpolar south too. I know large and small Magellanic clouds. I know, okay? But for us here in the north, we do have some really cool stuff that sometimes we forget about up there in the circumpolar north stuff. So, and that would be one of them that is in that region. And then of course, I had to put them in there. These are two of my favorites, M81 and M82. Beautiful spiral galaxy up there towards the nose of Ursa Major, or the frying pan part of the Big Dipper, and then the Cigar Galaxy M82, an irregular galaxy. Just amazing. And then there's also, you see the picture here, Abell 426, the Perseus cluster. Great shot there, Clint, with your 152. So thanks for sharing that picture with us. So it's, again, fun to see what you guys get. And you know, I got to end with the binaries. So what do we got going on for binaries? I put it in there, circumpolar north. Polaris is a fun binary to look at. There's a nice little group there. So check out Polaris. Sometimes we forget about what's up there in the north. So check it out. And then back down south, back down into Eridanus, we have Omicron Eridani or Kid. Cool little binary. Definitely want to check this one out. Not super bright, but nice little companion. I'm going to drop down to Rigel. You know what's funny is I've been looking through telescopes ever since I was a kid, and I don't know how many times I looked at Rigel, and Never realized it was a binary until about a few years ago. But sometimes that's how it is. You know, you observe things, and I love going back and observing things that I've been observing for a while and discovering new things. Rigel is a binary. Now, obviously, you know, Beta, Orionis, it is actually, believe it or not, I think Rigel's the brightest star in Orion, but it's labeled Beta, and Betelgeuse is not as bright as Rigel, and it's Alpha. But anyways, but you do have that really nice companion to Rigel, and I can get it in my 102, the 152, no problem. But it's cool seeing that really kind of fainter secondary right next to Rigel. Now, I took some notes on this one because I ran across it. I was trying to find some other cool binaries to look at, and I ran across this one. So this is HD 35736 or HR 812 down there in Lepus. It's this constellation is right below Orion, and it is a cool little binary. You have a brighter yellow. I got my notes because I actually just found it last night. I was like, "Ooh, let's see what else we got." So it's a yellowish white primary, and then an orangish secondary. They're not really super bright. I think combined magnitude, they put them right at like a 4th or 5th magnitude. But when you look at it through your telescope, they have a nice separation, and you can see that color. So I always try and find new binaries, so I don't give you guys the same list every year. Speaking of. So we've been doing this for a year. I've been enjoying doing the in the sky stuff. Our first in the sky was December 2023. Yeah, and now here are January 2025. So we really appreciate y'all tuning in. And, you know, if you like what we're doing here, obviously, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share some of your observing with us. You know, Stellarvue's got the the Stellarvue users forum. Share us your observing stories. Share us what you're looking at. Share with us what you're gathering data on in your images. We're the Stellar Crew, and it's a new year, so it's always fun to meet new people. You know, we're going to be at the American Astronomical Society's conference this month in January. Vic and I and our friends from Los Mandi, they're also going to be there, so that'll be fun. And if you're going to be there, come visit, say hi. And yeah, just get out and observe. It's cold. Get those gloves on. Get those jackets on. Get out, observe, have a good time. And we just, again, really appreciate you tuning in. And don't forget Mars. Mars is out there. Whoo, Mars. So get out there, observe, have a good time. Share with us your observing, and keep looking up, y'all.